In this video, we will dive into the most important thing, which is how do you define your own type? We all know what the four letters of MBTI types mean. We have extroversion, introversion, we have intuition, sensing, we have thinking, feeling, and judging and perceiving. And that's how the four letters combine your personality type. But that's definitely not all. That's only the surface way of looking at it. Then we have John Beeb's cognitive functions, David Kersey's temperament theory, which later on was developed by Linda Behrens, and the interaction styles. It sounds like it's getting a bit complicated. But believe me, if you understand your own type, you will understand yourself and others better. Also, I have made videos about the cognitive functions separately, so if you don't know what are cognitive functions, please check it out before continuing this video. Okay, how do you define your personality type? Let's be honest, most of us in the MBTI community are gonna question our own type. If you're not questioning your own type, maybe you're emotionally attached to your type, you're lacking self-reflection, or you're taking things for granted. Maybe you haven't dived that deep into MBTI. So how do you define your type? Let me ask you one question. Do you remember a certain time or situations when you have acted or behaved like your own personality type? Pause if you need to think for this. Unfortunately, if your answer is yes, you remember a time or specific situations how you have behaved like your type, there's a chance that you haven't typed yourself correctly. Because the thing is, if you are your personality type, you're gonna behave like that type 90% of the time. You're gonna be most of the time behaving like that type. So if you remember specific situations, specific times, oh yeah, that was the time when I was like an ENTJ, then it's not gonna be your type because it was a specific moment, not you as how you normally usually are. We are not looking for exceptions. We are looking at the consistent patterns of your behavior. When an inner situation is not made conscious, it appears outside as fate. Do you know the feeling when you watch yourself from a video afterwards and you're like, what the hell, do I sound like that? Do I look like that? Like, that kind of describes what we are all experiencing as humans. We all have an inner
filter, inner way of seeing the world and ourselves, which it would be good if you would take into account.
And that's why everyone hates MBTI tests. Because it's like, go do a test and assess how well do you know yourself. Let's be honest, most of you guys don't know yourself. Because the thing is, you have an inner perception of yourself. We all have illusions of how we are as ourselves. I'll break it to you. There's no one test, there's no one typer, there's no one person who can tell you which type you are. The only thing you can do is to be truthful and objective enough and open-minded enough to question your type and make sure you find consistent patterns to make sure you are that type. That's all you can do. The potential that you misunderstand a question in a test, the potential that someone is typing you based on their own perception of you, that's just what's gonna happen. To the solution, how do you type yourself? First, get rid of the stereotypes. Just because you're bossy and organized doesn't mean you're an ESTJ. Just because you like to party doesn't mean you're an ESFP. The stereotypes destroy the honest and truthful approach that you should take because you are creating an emotional attachment to which type you're gonna be. You shouldn't do that. Second, we have a few frameworks which you can use to approach the personality types. The most common ones are obviously cognitive functions is one, and the second one, temperament and interaction styles. I will make a video about the temperaments and the interaction styles because I just realized I haven't done that. I'll just do a short introduction to them. First, we have the cognitive functions. So do you see an extroverted intuition and introverted sensing axis, or do you see an introverted intuition and extrovert sensing axis? Those functions work together. So you can notice pretty fast if someone is more like extrovert sensing or extrovert intuition, because those are more extroverted functions, maybe easier to notice. And then the judging functions, introvert feeling, extrovert thinking, and introvert thinking and extrovert feeling on an axis. It really depends on your own type also, which cognitive functions are the easiest for you to notice in others. And because we have 8 functions and you use most of them, it's gonna be a bit tricky to try to start assessing your own type based on cognitive functions. Then we have the temperament theory. So we have an F, We have NT, we have SP, and SJ. There's 4 groups of temperaments that you can notice in people. I think the patterns are pretty consistent, but we of course have outliers also. What the hell does that mean, okay? And F types like to look at the identity, meaning the community values from an abstract perspective. So they like abstract concepts that are related more to ethics, morality, identity, personality. It can be anything in that field. They are interest focused, so they might care about things like love, compassion. There's many kind of interests that they might have, but you can see patterns in the way they approach life. And then we have NT, so basically the abstract, theoretical, rational approach. So NT types like to gather information and knowledge, and they want to master knowledge. So they want to create coherent systems because they are also systematic, coherent systems, how the world works abstractly. Then we have SJs, which are basically more community-oriented, systematic. They are really the rocks of families. Usually you can see the pattern that they hold societies, families together. They like to organize, they like to make things work for people because they're still community and responsibility-oriented. And then we have SP types. They want to break boundaries and have an impact on society. They're also interest-based types, which means that they are mostly interested in themselves. So they come from a self-fulfilling perspective. They like to do things all the time that fulfill their inner true self. And they like to be free. They don't want to be restricted by people or society. In addition to temperament, we also have utilitarian and cooperative types. What does that mean? Utilitarian types care about what works, outcome over people. And the cooperative people like to maintain harmony. They care more about the community than the outcome. So they will prioritize the harmony and the people. And they also care what's right, what's good, more than the utilitarian types. In addition to this, we have interaction styles. We have directing, informing, which means you either direct, give orders, like to be concise with your interaction, or you're informing, which means literally you like to explain, gather insights, and understand more from different perspectives, inform people rather than to order people. And then we have initiating and responding, which basically is the same as extroversion, introversion, but not really. Be careful with this, because a lot of us feel like we are introverted. I feel like I like to be alone, and most of my time alone. I don't like people, so that's why I'm introverted. No, that's definitely not why you're introverted, okay? If you are in a social situation, are you naturally more inclined to direct your energy outwards? Are you naturally initiating in the environment, or are you naturally holding back? Are you naturally an observer, a responder? So this is the difference. How you direct your energy in a social situation, in a social setting. That's actually what this is about. Not how you feel if you're introverted or extroverted, and then you're suddenly an ambivert, and most of us are ambiverts. Like, no. Like, okay, you can approach it like that, but that's different than this, okay? Like, that's not helpful right now in here, because a lot of types could probably define themselves as ambiverts. So that was super short introduction about the temperaments. So personally, I use the temperament theory when typing anyone. And second layer is gonna be the cognitive functions. Why? Why would I do that? Because the temperament theory is a shortcut. It's like you can notice in 10 minutes, someone is directing, someone is utilitarian, someone is systematic. Okay, then we're left with INTJ and ENTJ. But you have basically excluded most of the types just based on their interaction style. We didn't even look at their cognitive functions. We just noticed how they interact with me. It's not that easy, of course, because most of us can vary between these categories. But the thing is, look for the consistent patterns. There are gonna be exceptions, but there's gonna be consistent patterns. Those are the ones you're looking for. Then I use cognitive functions. When you have 8 functions and in different order, according to Joan Beebe's theory, there are reasons why the cognitive functions are in different order. Is it your third or is it your fourth? That matters. They have different functions, you know? So the slot also matters. Like, what order are your functions in? That matters. But the thing is that is a complicated way to start assessing someone's personality type. So it's easier to use the temperament theory first to assess kind of where we are, what we are left with, and then look at the cognitive functions and be like, okay, this verifies this type, this verifies this type. That's how I myself at least do it. How do you use this tool? Let's say you're between an ISTJ and an INTJ. You know you're directing, you know you're responding from your interaction style. You also know you're a TFI, cognitive function user, but you're uncertain, are you an introverted sensing user or an introverted intuition user? And those are the perceiving functions. So actually, I think perceiving functions can be difficult to notice in real life because they can be a bit under the surface sometimes. Then we go to the chart. What is the difference between ISTJ and INTJ? ISTJs are cooperative and INTJs are utilitarian. ISTJs are concrete and INTJs are abstract. They are both systematic types. Then you ask yourself, do you sense social responsibilities or would you rather not focus on them? Do you focus more on abstract concepts and abstract theories? Or are you gathering knowledge more from the concrete societal perspective? Perhaps you're thinking more like politics, laws, social justice. These kind of more maybe societal concepts. Do you care more about what works as a utilitarian? Or do you care more about what is right, what is good, cooperative? If you don't know the answer, ask others. And even if you know the answer, ask still from others. This is the most important thing. Stop thinking you know everything about yourself. This whole video is just a reflection of my own type. This is how I gather information and this is how I assess my knowledge. It's not a wrong approach, but it's good to recognize your own cognitive bias because we all do have those. Go ask 10 different people, what do they assess you to be? You don't have to put personality types. You can put just like temperament, like for example, cooperative, utilitarian, abstract, concrete, directing, informing. You can put those, maybe even cognitive functions if you want to, into boxes and ask people for their honest opinion. What do they think you are? That's what matters. Be objective about it and be truthful about it. I asked from 10 people and I verified my own type that way. They didn't need to know about MBTI. I just showed them differences in like these characteristics and they just choose which one they think my patterns fit in. So you just assess that. You let them assess honestly that. You might have 10 different angles and they all might give you some perspective on who are you? What is your most constant personality type behavior? And thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe and comment if you want to support me. See you in the next video.